Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Charmed Season 3, Episode 5, Sight Unseen. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of exactly what happens within this episode. So this episode has a few different plot lines that kind of weave together. So it starts with Prue having become obsessed with the triad since they sent someone back in time to try to, well, they say wipe out their line, though in the episode it was turn their line evil. Either way, someone was sent to the past to mess with their bloodline. Now Prue is obsessed to the point where she's even standing up guys. When she stands up the guy, Sean, she returns home. All the mirrors in the house are broken, and they later discover that their grandmother's necklace, as well as her favorite top, are missing. Daryl comes over to investigate. He does find fingerprints on all of the broken mirrors and cautions them that it may be a stalker. Prue immediately discounts this as she's fully fixated that the only danger to them is demons and major evil, and so a stalker, something as mundane as that, no way. Meanwhile, Piper has not been able to be intimate with Leo for some time as she fears that they are being watched during their intimate actions by Leo's bosses, as he's been called away at least twice while they were in the middle of being intimate, which she thinks is not a coincidence. So that kind of is a through line throughout the episode. We then learn that a demon named Troxa, who can turn invisible, was sent by the Triad alongside Cole because Cole is taking longer than they want him to get rid of the charmed ones. Cole points out that the Triads had 2 years of trying and he's only been given a month, but they point out and counter him that he's had a month with 2 years worth of gathered information, and so they are sending Troxa not as a replacement, but as a second agent to try to defeat the charmed ones. Cole then basically interferes in Troxa's attacks because he has been promised something, though we're not aware of what it is yet, by the Triad should he succeed, and he wants whatever that is, and is upset that they're sending Troxa. And then at first, Cole is basically attacked by Troxa, who taunts him with not knowing how to deal with him. However, then the next time that they meet, Cole has figured out his weakness, which is that Troxa is weak to cold. He then goes to the house to basically turn on the AC, open all the windows, make the house cold. However, he does fall to the temptation to try to look at the Book of Shadows, which leads to him getting caught in Prue's crystal trap and getting electrocuted. When they come home and find him, luckily in his human form, not his demon one, he's able to escape scrutiny because of Phoebe. And he, of course, plays the victim about how, you know, Prue can't baby trap her home. That is illegal. She's lucky he doesn't arrest her, so on and so forth. And then leaves, which makes Phoebe angry at Prue. But it does end up working out because when Troxa then comes in for the attack again, after Cole basically sends him to the Charmed Ones, basically saying, I'm sorry I got in your way. You know what? You can have them. He then sends him to them. He tries to attack Prue in the attic. She's able to see him because it's so cold. She traps him in the crystal cage. He then gives up the information that Balthazar is the other agent, which they are able to look up in the book, and it does match the description of the demon they saw in Once Upon a Time. And so they now know who their next target is, which is Balthazar. And Troxa is vanquished by the Triad before he can give up any information about them to Prue. They then think everything is over, but Prue is too wired to sleep, so she goes down to develop some pictures. As she's developing the pictures, she happens to notice that they're all candid shots of her. And then her head is slammed into the chemicals and she is rendered unconscious. The next day, the sisters decide to head to the club, I believe is where they go. Yes, they call Prue's cell phone. Abby answers and pretends to be Prue. They then think she's fine. They head to the club. Once they get to the club, Daryl calls them and essentially says, hey, the fingerprints came back. Turns out it was Abby who works for Piper. And so Piper and Phoebe go to check out Abby's locker, where they find the type of makeup that, like the type of cosmetics that Prue uses, Prue's perfume, a journal filled with pictures that have been tracking Prue's every word, or every move. And this is when Phoebe gets a premonition off the journal that Prue is going to be shot by Abby. Basically, while they've been at the club, Abby first taunts Prue, who finally comes back to consciousness, tells her, how great they are and how they can do so much better than Sean and how great she will be once Prue's no longer around. And Prue basically throws her into the shelving in the basement, goes up the stairs, basically tries to hide. Astral projects so that she can attack Abby, and of course Abby's bullets go straight through the astral projection and is basically running from her. And then Abby catches up to her in the kitchen, though this is when Piper and Phoebe arrive. Piper freezes them with the bullet halfway through. Prue throws her into the cabinet, and then it is presumed that she is arrested by Daryl. We then get that night at the club. Piper has replaced Abby with Rachel, who wants to be a teacher and is satisfied with her life, which puts Prue at ease, and she gives her a tip before going over to Sean and basically greeting him, asking him to dance, essentially deciding or coming to grips with the fact that evil can come in more than one form, and it's not just demons, but also mortals that they have to watch out for. Phoebe and Cole share their first kiss, and he's forgiven her for what Prue did, which is good. Well, basically, she asks him if they're still friends, and he's like, I thought we were more than that. And then she says, prove it. And then he kisses her. And then Piper gets over her performance anxiety and basically stops caring whether she's being watched or not and just enjoys the moment with Leo. And so basically, everybody ends happy. And now that we've been reminded about what happens, it's time to rank the episode. We rank on two lists, a mostly objective ranking list and then a personal ranking list. Alright, so I've highlighted the mostly objective rank values that I felt applied to this episode. We start with our single episode supporting character introduction, which of course is Troxa, the invisible demon, who honestly does not go down in glory, really. He basically gets sabotaged before he has a chance to really make a name for himself. Unfortunately. Yeah. And then we have the world building, which is worth 4 points. And this, of course, is the first appearance of the crystal cage, which Prue invented. We do see the crystal cage coming back in the future as well and used in other episodes throughout the series. But this is the first time it appears, and so that is worth those 4 points, which brings us to 5 points so far. We then, of course, have our main relationship development, which, of course, is Cole and Phoebe's first kiss and acknowledgement that they are more than friends, which brings us to 9. Honorable mention on the development is, of course, Piper getting over her issues with Leo. However, as that just brings them back to where they were before, I'm not counting it towards the points, but it is worth mentioning. However, there is also negatives to this episode as well. So the first negative is, of course, the negative messaging or behavior, which is the fact that Abby is a stalker and stalking is criminal behavior, therefore negative. And that is -2 points. And then we have our main relationship regression or breakup. In this case, it's regression. And that, of course, is the fact that Piper and Leo went from being okay and in a good place to Piper not being able to be intimate with Leo because of her worry that they are being watched, of their attempts at coitus being interrupted on multiple occasions, two before the episode starts, and at least once within the episode, as Leo does arrive looking somewhat disheveled at a certain point, basically saying that he swears it's a coincidence. Phoebe also interrupts them when they're at the club, trying to hope that a different venue might fix the issues. So they're working through some things in this episode. However, like I said, by the end of the episode, they do come back to where we left them off the episode before, where they are in a good place and actively able to be intimate again. And that is worth -3 points, which brings this episode objectively to a 4 out of 4 4 out of 10 episode. And so our season 3 rankings so far and our mostly objective ranking. In first place, The Honeymoon's Over, Magic Hour, All Hallowell's Eve, Once Upon a Time, and then this episode falls into 5th place as Sight Unseen. Now, for my personal ranking, I found the episode overall was very strong. I liked the lessons that the sisters had to learn, or at least that Prue had to learn, which was that, there's more evil than just demonic evil, and a reminder that we haven't seen in a while that even mortals can be the villains. I mean, I guess technically in season 1, we had the Dream Sorcerer. In season 2, we had Astral Monkey, which had the Doctor going evil. And there might have been times that I'm forgetting, but it's not very common for the villain to be a mortal, and so it is easy to forget that this is still a world that is based on reality, and that even though there is greater evils, like the supernatural evils that the sisters fight, there also are ordinary mundane evils, which are mortals who basically have no morals or ethics. And in this case, we have Abby, who became obsessed with Prue, thought Prue's life was so amazing, and decided she wanted to be her, and attacking Prue at the end. Like I said, unfortunately, Troxa didn't really get a chance to shine because Cole interfered. Though I do like how it's hinted at that Cole has a greater motive than just being sent by the Triad. It sounds like they've promised him something because they even say that the benefit is greater to him than it is to them, which is why they are willing to kind of renege on the deal and send somebody else if they need to, which is interesting. And I know that we do eventually find out what his motivation is, but I like this little bit of foreshadowing. Obviously, we got the progression with Cole and Phoebe, where they're sharing their first kiss, which I don't know if that makes them official as a couple or just in the we're now seeing each other, but we may not be exclusive stage. I don't know where they are. They never really are clear in the show on exactly where they are, but in my opinion, if you're at the point where you're kissing, you're definitely past the friend stage, and so we are counting them now as the main relationship development, and they are now a couple, which again, I like. And then you have the Piper kind of through line, which didn't take away anything from the episode, didn't necessarily add anything either. It's just kind of a side quest that seems mostly unrelated to the main lesson of the episode and the main plot lines of the episode, but it's not a negative. It doesn't take anything away from it. So overall, I liked the episode. Was it the strongest episode? in the season? No, but was it still very good, especially as compared to some other episodes that we've seen? Absolutely. And that is why I decided to give it a 7 out of 10 ranking. Didn't have anything negative, but also wasn't the most exciting, wasn't the most memorable. And that brings our season 3 rankings so far on the personal side to Once Upon a Time in first place, All Halliwell's Eve in second, Magic Hour in third, The Honeymoon's Over fourth, and then fifth we have Sight Unseen, which is this episode. And now we come to our series rankings so far. And this is where we, of course, are going to be ranking each of the seasons against each other. So we'll start on our mostly objective ranking side with Season 2 currently in first place with 75%. Season 1 came in second with a total score of 73.18%. Season 3 is still pending, but has so far earned 41 out of a maximum possible score of 220. And then on our personal side, Season 1 is currently in first place with a total score of 71.50%. Season 2 comes in second with 56.82% as its final score. And Season 3 is still going strong with a total current score of 44 out of 220. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Charmed Season 3, Episode 5, Sight Unseen. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.